Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Free Advice Friday, the Easter edition of Free Advice Friday. Hopefully, the Easter Bunny was good to you. You've got your chocolate basket, you're ready to your M&Ms, and you've got snacks and you've got lunch, and you're going to hang out for Free Advice Friday. And today, Uncle Roy is going to be joining me on the show. He is here to answer all of your tech and studio questions and always dispensing really, really good advice. So Uncle Roy is going to join me in one moment. But just before we start with Free Advice Friday, I do just want to remind you, Voiceover Marketing Playbook 3.0 is coming out in just a couple of days. In fact, I have one more video that I need to do to complete the overhaul of the course, and I'm probably going to be doing that later this afternoon. And then Playbook will be ready to go April 11th through the 20th. So if you are looking for that step-by-step marketing program that is going to teach you how to find your own leads, build your own client base, and become the consistently working voice actor that you want to be, you are going to want to get the Playbook. So watch for Playbook coming out on April 11th. All right, so now that we've got that out of the way, let's bring on Uncle Roy. Look at those ears.
The Pesach bunny.
Look at that. See, we are so ready to celebrate Easter and do the Easter edition of Free Advice Friday and answer some good questions, sort of solving everybody's problems on tech and home studio and all of that fun sort of stuff. But there's one question I want to ask you off the top, and this is going to be I don't know that there's an easy way to answer this. I don't know that there is one answer to this, but one of the biggest takeaways that I got from VO Atlanta, I was in a session with one of the most respected and reputable casting directors in the industry. And the comment was made that they may get 800 auditions for one of their castings. And they legitimately listen to every one of the auditions that they receive, which I think blew a lot of people's minds. But what was said was, of those 800, and she was throwing out ballpark numbers, but of those 800, 500 of them get eliminated right off the top, and most of those are because of bad audio. But if you were to ask all 800 voice actors who submitted, I'm sure that all 800 of them would say my audio is fine. But obviously, that is not the case. Now, I know that you don't get to hear these auditions, but my guess is because of what you do, you hear enough audio. Is there anything that you could say to a voice actor who maybe doesn't know better? What are some things that they should be listening for, or what do you think are some of those things that are resulting in that bad audio? Are there things that we can fix relatively easily? I know it's a very broad question, but I'm just curious what your take is.
Yeah. The first thing is the environment, the space that you're in. And we've all heard this a million times anyway, but I like to repeat it. If it sounds reverberant, if the ceiling is not treated, your voice is going to hit the ceiling, come back down into your microphone. Now, maybe they can't hear that difference if the casting person is listening on a laptop, but if they put on any decent speakers or headphones or anything, they're going to hear it. And the end client is going to hear it. Over-processed. You put on a compressor because you heard that's the right thing to do. And then you put on a limiter, and then you put on a noise gate, and all kinds of things that we can hear doing their supposed job, except they're not adjusted properly. And another thing would be, and Liz Atherton called me on this, saying people send in stuff and it's really soft and I can't hear it. So I just don't listen. I'm not going to turn up the volume every time I hear a soft one. And the other, conversely, anything that's been normalized to 100% and is like loud and blasting, she won't listen. She scared the crap out of me. I'm not going to listen. And then, of course, mislabeling files and stuff like that, or sending the wrong format. But I'd say the environment, possibly bad equipment, and over processing.
I think that's the over processing. I think is a good point because, you know, you can be recording in a Studio Bricks with a really expensive microphone and still send in bad audio if you're not doing things the right way on the processing side. So you mentioned, you know, if volume that's too low or volume that's too high, is there a standard for where we should be submitting auditions and stuff like that? Is there a standard dB rating or normalization rating? What do you think about that?
Yeah, the industry standard for submitting just a voice in the clear without being mixed with music and stuff like that, which is what we deliver, just voice, should be -3. So in the worst case, in the least amount of work, at least normalize your file to -3. Now, if there's one gigantic peak, or you coughed, or you clapped, or something, that's the thing that's going to normalize to -3. So you got to either get rid of that or minimize that one peak and then normalize again to -3. The other thing would be high noise floor. So if you know what a high pass filter is, people who have taken my class, it's just F, or the older version is F enter. It's just the filter. Put a high pass filter on it, like 75. Um, all DAWs and all recording software have a high pass filter, or low cut, or some microphones have, or a vocal strip like a DBX 286 would have a high pass filter in there. Just gets rid of the, in Adobe Audition, it's literally called kill the mic rumble. So
it's some of these things are actually really easy to fix. You just, if you don't know, you don't know. And so that's why you got to talk to somebody who's in the know, somebody who can help you to address some of these things. So everyone watching, I just wanted to let you know that the floor is open. If you've got a question that you would like to ask, feel free to type it into the chat. If you just put a Q beside your comment before you type it, that way it pops out on my screen. It makes it a little bit easier for me to find. But welcome Stetson, Tim, Sean, Julie, Derek, Greg, Christopher. There's a lot of people hanging out here watching today. Dion, thank you for watching, guys here. Flip. So appreciate you guys. Jane watching from Las Vegas. My guess is it's a little bit nicer in Las Vegas today than it is in Southern Ontario. Uncle Roy's got all of his Easter snacks. He's got his bunny ears on.
Everybody.
Why would you want the Easter Bunny to distribute chocolate when you could have the Easter Bunny distribute free advice about your home studio and your tech and getting all of those sorts of things sorted out? So don't be shy. If you got a question, type it in the comments. Would love to hear your questions.
When I was in the studio and I used to hop around, I had a giant basket that I filled with the plastic Easter eggs. I spent $75 on jelly beans and stuffed them, and I had a box of matzah, and I had real carrots and a big plush carrot, and I'd hop around giving them out. And somebody brought their son in. So the phrase, "Mommy, the Easter Bunny has big hair." I was the Easter Bunny or the Pesach Bunny with big hair.
All right, here's a question that comes from Tim. I have occasional recordings which seem to have a cracking, odd random ticks. What is it, and how do I get rid of it? That could be a cable thing or a mouth noise thing, possibly, right?
First, I would say if you added an extension to your USB from your interface to your computer, that will cause it, unless there's such a thing as a powered USB cable that Stephen Coghill told me about, I think. So it's really got to be the short USB cable. Also, are your mic cables sitting on top of your power line or crossing the power line? Because that could introduce hum or crackle, or you have a cheap mic cable, or your mic or your interface or your mic is dying. So if it's the interface, for instance, if you have a Scarlett, go to Focusrite.com, download new drivers, and reboot and see if that solves the problem.
One of those little spray cans of dust to clean out all of the ports. I legitimately, so I did a podcast interview. I think it was 2 days ago. I recorded an interview with Troy Holden for his podcast, and halfway through the interview, my headphones just crapped out completely. And so I'm like, man, you got to hang on a second. And I'm like literally on my knees in the booth, pulling out the headphone jack and like blowing into the thing, plug the headphone jack back in. Everything worked fine. So I don't know if that's actually what fixed it or not, but hey, sometimes it can be something that is that simple that can solve the problem. So
they oxidize,
yep.
So exercising them sometimes is good enough. Or used to be back in the day was tuner cleaner,
yep.
Stuff to clean
Here's a question from Guy. He says, I've got a 3 foot by 5 foot PVC blanket booth. Would a 4x6 be better other than because I would have more room? And I was going to say, for me, that would feel 3x5 feels a little too tight, but that's just strictly I don't know if that's a claustrophobic thing or a performance thing, but does size matter when it comes to the sound, Uncle Roy?
Well, when it comes to a PVC frame, it doesn't matter as much. You could put a panel behind you. In other words, if it's now wider so that you can thrash around and do the physicality of your acting, but perhaps behind you really is unneeded, well, then you can put an acoustic panel behind you to kind of tighten up the space. But it shouldn't matter. Your voice is going to the blanket. Whatever goes out and hits the hard surface and comes back is not coming back in. So I don't think size matters. Yeah, bigger. I think bigger is better for you. Let's not go crazy. You don't need a 12 by 12, but 6 by 8 is going to be great.
It is. It's, looking back now, because I custom built my booth, right? So I can't really change it at this point without having to redo everything. And I wish, like, if I had gone even just 1 foot bigger, just to have just a little bit more room to move around, it would have made a big difference, I think.
I can just see you thrashing around on those e-learning scripts.
That's right. They get pretty intense sometimes talking about cybersecurity. I get really into it, and oh my goodness. All right. So again, if you guys have a question for Free Advice Friday, don't be shy. You're welcome to type your question into the comments. Just put a Q beside it, and I'm happy to put your question forward to Uncle Roy. Here's one from Greg. It may be too early to ask, but wondered if anyone has heard any reviews or shootouts between the new 5th gen NT1 and older versions. Have you got any thoughts on that one?
Well, I ordered mine. It hasn't shown up yet, and I got mine because Patrick Kirchner got his. I forget what he said about it. I guess it's a little bright. It's a little, it's a little different sounding than the NT1. But for those who don't know about the 5th gen, it's XLR and USB.
Oh, fancy.
So that you can use it for travel. So you can plug it into your interface at home, and then you can wrap it up, take it with you on the road without an interface. The other thing is it's 32-bit, and what that means is you can scream into the damn thing and it won't overload. It won't distort, and it's not compression or anything like that. It's just recording so much. They demoed it at VO Atlanta, and somebody was singing. Kara O'Brien was singing very loud, kind of operatic, and you could see it was off the scale. Then when they normalized it, nothing was clipped. It was all sine wave. It was beautiful. So if you're doing gaming where there's a lot of different dynamics,
I was gonna say, yeah, where you're up and down, and gaming characters, animation, anything like that.
So you could just kind of set it once and be okay, because you could normalize it and it'll not be distorted.
Wow, that's fancy.
Wow.
So,
and I think it's a drop cheaper than the plain NT1.
So I know you said you're still waiting for years to come, but is this the type of thing, like if somebody's got an older version of an NT1, is it something that you would think about upgrading, or
nah?
Maybe depending on what you're doing, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not planning on taking any recording equipment on travel, just stick with your NT1. It's one of my entry level microphones. That I have an older NT1, and it's fine. And then it's just any new mic, any bigger mic, Neumann 102, 87, crazy. That's all budget dependent. But now, if you have the NT1, if you have the 1A, let's get rid of that.
Okay.
But if you have the NT1, you're fine. But if you want to travel and not bring an interface,
there's something to be said for that. I mean, definitely more convenient, that's for sure.
Yeah. Sometimes the luggage is 6 pounds over, and that
one less thing to have to try to get through TSA.
Yeah, it was that way at VO Atlanta. I had to literally take 6 pounds of stuff out of my suitcase and trying to squeeze it in with the bagels. That was in case the bagels were a little squishy. That's why.
Okay,
The
here's
key.
a great question from Annie. This is one that we probably all should pay attention to. Should we have our mics professionally cleaned and maintained from time to time? I bought both of my mics used and just wondering if it would be a good idea to have them cleaned or open them myself. What are your thoughts on that one?
Don't open it yourself.
I would open it myself. All the pieces would fall out on the floor, and I'd be like, "Oh, I got to go buy a new microphone."
Open it with a can opener or the key, like it's a can of sardines. Back in the day, we used to put um, iodine, distilled water. We'd flush the diaphragm, the mic diaphragm, which is the thing that vibrates when your voice goes to it. We would clean that because everybody's spitting into it.
Right.
You know, if you have a foam pop filter on there, no, then you're probably safe. I wouldn't worry too much about dust in there if you don't use it that much. Put a sock on it, you know. But I wouldn't say do it yourself. If you detect a change in the sound, yeah,
Right.
then send it out, send it back to Neumann or whoever.
Yep.
As long or get an estimate first, because like if it's a Rode NT1 and you're going to send it in, it may cost more for them to repair it than for you to buy a new one.
By the time you pay for shipping and labor and parts and anything else it may be, yeah.
And you know, chances are it's just your spit. When we had it in the studio, everybody was spitting in it, so you know, for cleanliness and
A little
stuff.
bit different, yeah.
Once every 3
That
months.
would not fly in these COVID times.
No.
Okay, Flip says, would tuner cleaner be the same as contact cleaner? You mentioned that earlier. That's what we're talking about?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
It's the same thing. Yeah.
Right on. So there you go.
Used to, you know, when we had radios that had tuning capacitors like this, yeah, you would spray stuff in there and get the contacts all. Contact Renew might be a brand name, and
Okay.
you can probably find that on Amazon.
Okay. Good to know.
Spray
all
it
right.
in your jack.
Guys, just a quick reminder to next Friday on Free Advice Friday, Christi Bowen is going to be joining me live at 1 o'clock Eastern right here on the YouTube channel. And if you've got questions about e-learning, Christi is amazing. She dominates in that genre and can absolutely answer all your questions on e-learning. So you're going to want to mark your calendars, subscribe to the channel as well, and get notified when I go live. But that's next Friday, 1 o'clock Eastern with Christi Bowen.
Right.
All right, Stetson says, my question to you, would you be willing to help me with my setup in Studio One? I'm quite certain I have it set up correctly, but I want an expert to review and confirm.
I can review it, but I'm not a Studio One expert. I'm an expert on Adobe Audition, Twisted Wave, and Audacity, but audio is audio, a wave is a wave. If you send me, everybody listening, if you send me a raw sample of 10 seconds of room tone, followed by a 30-second audition read, I will at least tell you your space is good, your equipment seems okay, you need a de-esser, you need a mouth noise declick, go on Isotope, it's on sale, half price. Yeah, so send me a sample. My email address that I'm sure Marc will put in there, my shameful email address, antlandprods at AOL.com. Shamefully not sorry or not sorry, depending on where you live.
Are you getting like an emergency alert? Is that what I'm hearing?
Who?
I don't know. I hear something in the background. I was like, are you getting an emergency alert? There's the email address, right? That's right. Antland. Oh, nope, that's not right. Hang on a second. Antland. I spelled it wrong. Prods. Antlandprods at AOL.com. There's the email address.
Still hearing that alert?
Yeah, something's beeping.
How about now?
No, there we go.
I shut up. That was my phone patch.
Oh, I was like, are you getting a tornado warning, or is there a hurricane coming into New Jersey, or what's going on there? All right, here's a really good question from Michelle Henry. Let's what did I do? I hit the wrong button. There we go. I have a high noise floor because my house is older. I use plugins when I produce the VO, but do I need to worry about the noise floor when I do Source Connect sessions?
Or Connection Open. Little plug. Depending on what DAW you use, for instance, if you use Adobe Audition, in multi-track, you can actually put the high pass filter in, or you can buy an inline high pass filter, at least to get that rumble out. And there's also adaptive. You can put a couple of things in Adobe, and so your mic goes to Adobe, and Adobe is then the source for Source Connect. So you can use some plugins to
Ooh, that's smart.
clean it up live. They don't
Yeah,
tell you that.
that's a good idea.
So yes, it's a concern.
Here's a question from Christopher. Is it a good idea to seek you out after a move to ensure our noise floor, mic placement, etc. are conducive to the new space?
You know the answer to that. It's a good thing you asked.
I always double check. I've had you help me out with a few different studio spaces now as I've moved over the years and changed microphones over the years. And
we have fun moving those panels around in your first space.
Yes, that was the first. It was like a spare bedroom in a 2-bedroom apartment that was every solid surface that you could possibly think of. There was nothing absorbing in it at all, and we definitely had to work on that one.
We wanted you to be WoVO approved.
That's right. Had to get my WoVO studio approval.
Right, and me being on the tech advisor board, you kind of had an inside. Speaking of WoVO, that's coming up the Cinco de Mayo weekend.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're, a month away from that, basically. WoVO in Orlando coming up.
That's coming up.
Here's a question from Greg. Is a PVC booth better or using ceiling tracks the same regarding sound quality? So you put up what, like one of those shower curtain type ring things and hang the moving blankets from the ceiling?
Yeah, that's good too, as long as your diameter is wide enough that when you swing it around yourself,
you got room.
Like this. Whatever works in the space, but the packing blankets are the packing blankets. So there's no better one or two. Whatever your space will accommodate best.
Right on. Briscoe VO, what about your physical floor? Does that also need to be treated same as the walls and roof of your recording space? I know putting carpet in made a big difference for me. Actually, that first studio that first spare bedroom we were just talking about, throwing in an area rug made a big difference because it was all tile floor.
To which some people then say, well, what kind of rug? And I say, a pretty one.
I had orange shag, actually. We still have that. We still have that rug. It's upstairs in the living room now.
I mean, I guess the denser it is, theoretically, but yeah, you don't want, if you've got a hard wood floor or tile would be terrible. Every hard surface, even your desk, should have at least a towel, if not a blanket. And sometimes it's the monitor. Your voice hits the monitor, bounce back, so you may have to adjust the angle of the monitor or different placement of where your microphone is.
That actually brings up a really good point because I have a 24-inch monitor mounted in my booth, and it's basically in front of my microphone. And I must have moved things around last week. Shout out for VOpreneur, because I noticed I did a recording yesterday, and there was a little bit of room, like echo or something almost on it. And I was like, I bet you it's because it's bouncing back off of the monitor. So what? Just tilt it? Like I can tilt it up or tilt it down. Just tilting it or moving it off to the side, or
are you reading off the monitor?
I'm reading off the monitor, yeah. Rebuild your studio. Would you do it that way for, dummy?
Yeah, what'd you do that for? Just try a different mic position. Angle it so that the side of the mic is facing the monitor, because the side has better rejection, or the back has better rejection. So if it's literally here and the back of it is is aimed towards the monitor, how do you have it now?
I think I just must have moved the monitor. I think I probably just adjusted the height of it a little bit because I was probably doing something in the booth, and because it goes up and down and tilts back and right, and I probably just must have moved it just slightly. So I just need to fart around with it.
It's not broken, don't fix it.
I know I shouldn't have moved it. Anthony says, do you have an opinion on the Harlan Hogan Porta-Booth? Have you got any direct experience with those?
The way to make it work so that it doesn't sound like a box, because it's just a microphone in a smaller box, and a small box will sound boxy. And it's the same with the Chaotica eyeball. You have to stuff that space, fill it up with towels and stuffed animals and even fiber fill, so that there's no space. Let the mic not in front of the microphone, but on behind the microphone. I know it's a padded box, but it still sounds like a box to me. Now, it's a good product, but you have to put some treatment in there.
I was definitely coveting some of the George Whittam tri-booths. George and Rick have created those tri-booths, and man, seeing it at VO Atlanta, it took a lot of restraint to not come home with one of those. I just want to say, after I actually got the chance to see it and look at it, because as someone who travels a lot, right, I wouldn't be using it in my home studio, but oh my gosh, that thing is beautiful. And I don't. Barry Tavares, many of you may have seen her at VO Atlanta. She's become like I tease her about being like the influencer, that because she posts all the videos, because she's like a world traveler, and everywhere she goes, she posts a setup and tear down video of the tri booth. And I was like just waiting for George to hire her on as a brand endorser or something. But that's a nice looking booth.
She has the worst Wi-Fi ever because she was in Korea.
Yes.
and I had to set up her Adobe, and what takes normally 2 hours was over 3 hours, just because the Wi-Fi was so bad.
That's unfortunate. This is a really interesting question from Allie. I am curious to see what you have to say on this. Why should we have our mics upside down? We see pictures all the time. Some people have it upside down. Some people have it right side up. Does the 416 come in this way? Does it come in this way? There seems to be a lot of that. I mean, I have my U87 hanging upside down right now, but does it really matter? Is it an aesthetic, just an aesthetic thing? Is it how it fits in the space, or does it affect the sound?
Doesn't affect the sound at all. So, if coming up is better so that you don't hit it, or just that's the way your mic stand happens to go, I say the 416 here. George and Dan say like here. So I always say this 3 times to wear headphones, but I'm adding a 4th time, and that's to find the sweet spot. Put on your headphones and move, try it upside down. Try it this way. I think you'll notice there's really no difference. Or is putting it here a better rejection to monitor bounce than here? So put your headphones on, try it all different ways. Some people might be kind of OCD and say, no, that I have to read it. It has to be straight up and down. I got to be able to read the logo and everything. It really doesn't matter. Just experiment. You can do it here, but it's got to be at an angle. We don't talk into a microphone. Don't face it. Don't play to it. Let the mic find you.
It's like the first week that I did Free Advice Friday with this Rode, and apparently I was way too close, and all of my P's were popping something fierce. And so it's like, let's move it down and back and get it out of the way a little bit. And
Patrick Kirchner was texting me.
Yeah, but nobody was texting me.
Well, you don't look at your texts while you're on the show, Anyway.
Okay, here's one from Dion Marie. Just upgraded my mic to a TLM 102. Do I need to upgrade my interface and XLR cables? I currently have a UR22, the Steinberg, which I know you are a big fan of the Steinberg, actually.
Yes. You don't have to. I mean, if it sounds good, here's my old UR22, and I got a new UR22. If it sounds good, look, if you need a write-off, if you want to put it up.
Sometimes you need a write-off.
Yeah. Or you want a nice, shiny new mic cable, Mogami, or a monster cable, go for it. But if it sounds good, leave it. I got the SSL2 because I just wanted to try different interfaces.
I had the 2i2, right? I had the Scarlett like everybody else has got. Yeah. And when it died, and I was running a U87, which everybody made fun of me because you got a $4,000 microphone running into a $100 interface. But so I ran it through the 2i2. When I upgraded to my new interface, which is a Pro, it's from Focusrite's Pro grade of audio. It's a RedNet X2P Pro interface. I honestly don't really notice any difference in the sound whatsoever from that $800 interface to the $100 2i2. It really didn't seem to make a difference.
You want to see something sexy? Look at this one.
Looks like a guitar pedal.
Fernando, I don't know his last name. We're going to have a meeting later. He makes these.
Wow.
It's 2 in. It'll do phantom power.
Nice.
It's got volume. It's got a mix so that it's a mix between what you hear live and your DAW.
Right.
It's actually got bass and treble.
Fancy.
Yeah, it needs a couple of more things like a pad and maybe even a high pass filter, but Pod Mobile, and there's a patent number and everything. If you want, you could scan this QR code.
There you go.
So that
scan it, find out more.
Find out more. I haven't tried it yet.
Here's a question from Annie. Some moving blankets seem almost shiny because they are like polyester or nylon. Is there a risk that they end up doing more harm than good? They look to me like they would reflect noise.
I don't know.
Is there a difference? Are we buying moving blankets or are we buying sound blankets or acoustic blankets? Do we use the term interchangeably, or are there actually different things? You can go on Amazon and buy a moving blanket, or you can go on Amazon and buy a sound blanket.
Or Home Depot.
Or Home Depot or wherever.
Yeah, I would go to vocalbooth2go.com and get producer's choice blankets. I think they're denser. You don't have to double them up. It also depends on how reflective outside that space is. So if it's not that bad in the room and the blankets are thinner, then okay, only a little goes out, only a little comes back or doesn't come back. If you can afford it, just go for more. And
Right.
Same thing with foam. Don't go for 1-inch foam. Go for 2 or 3 if you can.
Right.
If you can afford it. The more absorption we can have, the better.
Right on. Okay.
Yep.
Here's one from Kat. To follow up on the earlier question about having a high noise floor during Source Connect sessions, are there any similar solutions? You mentioned about going through Adobe. Is there a similar solution for Audacity or Twisted Wave?
Not for going through live.
Okay.
I don't believe. But you can buy an inline high pass filter. In other words, your mic cable plugs into this thing and this thing plugs into your interface. And maybe it's even a variable to, and you can tune it until you see your noise floor go down.
Okay. Should I cover the underside of an open desk or shelves? You were talking about covering hard surfaces in the studio. Does the underside make a difference at all?
Depends on if any sound is getting under there. If it isn't, then look, it couldn't hurt to do it, but do you need to? Send me a sample, and if I don't hear anything, then leave it alone. And if I hear something, we'll try to figure out, okay, is it your monitor? Is it this? Usually I say, look straight up. What's up on your ceiling? And they'll say nothing. So
Want to mention this one too. Next week, Christi Bowen is going to join me on Free Advice Friday. The week after, April 21st, Cliff Zellman. We're finally getting to reschedule. He ran into me at VO Atlanta and he was like, we got to reschedule. He was supposed to do this, a month ago or so, and we weren't able to get it done. So April 21st, 1 o'clock Eastern, live on the channel. Again, subscribe to the channel so that you can get notified. Cliff is going to be here to answer all things automotive. So take a note of that one. Mark it down on your calendar. You are definitely going to want to be here for that one. Michelle Henry, we were talking about microphones earlier, talking about the Rode and the NT1 versus the NT1A. What is it about the 1A that you are not a fan of?
It's very, 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 very bright and sibilant.
Okay.
And it's cheap. And it just, anybody who sends me one, I can usually guess what mic is this, the 1A. Now, I know some coaches endorse it, but they're not techs, and they don't have one, and they're not sending out their audio on it. But because it's affordable, and the NT1 5th generation, what is it, 240 or something like that, US? It's very affordable.
Now you got me curious.
At the time, the 1A was only $30 cheaper than the 1. So the only advantage is that it's super, super bright. It's too bright.
Let's look. We're on Sweetwater. Let's look it up. The NT1 NT1 5th generation. Okay, let's look. So the NT1 5th generation. So there you go. $249 for the NT1 fifth generation, and then the NT1A. Okay, that's a whole. Okay, 199. So for $50 more, basically. Oh, I got myself up here on the screen twice. I didn't even realize that. I need to. Maybe it would be nice if I.
But not only that,
Let me bring Uncle Roy on. There we go. That's
Hey,
better. Whoops.
But not only that, you get the advantage of you can use it without an interface, and you can't overload it. I'm sure you can, but I didn't see it overload.
So for $50 more is basically right. So that makes that's that's not a lot of money to invest. That's just all part of the write-off, right? When you're upgrading your studio,
you to run out and spend $3,500 on a U87.
You got to wait for that. You have to graduate into that. That's what I learned.
You have to earn it.
My first mic, I can't even remember what my first mic. Well, I used an EVR E20 for a really long time because 100 years ago, that's when you were in radio. That was the microphone, and that's what everybody bought. And so I had that EVR E20 for a while. I had I want to say it was a Marshall, maybe. I can't even remember that I used for a while. And then the first real legit microphone that I got was the 416. And I mean, it took me a while to save up and get to that point. But I mean,
that's not cheap.
You can make things work, I guess. But for $50 more, yeah, I guess the fifth generation, from what you're telling me about the fifth generation, that actually sounds really cool to know, especially if, like you said, with gaming or animation or doing characters and stuff like that, to know that if you blow out your levels and you can just kind of recover it back, like that's a pretty sweet deal. Again, if you guys have questions, thank you everyone for hanging out on Free Advice Friday here. If you do have a question that you would like to ask,
go buy some swag.
Go buy some swag. All of the tech and home studio questions that you want, this is your chance to ask Uncle Roy and get those questions answered absolutely free. If there's a question that you would like to have answered, just type it into the comments, put a Q beside it, and we're certainly happy to try and get to as many questions as we possibly can. So here's one from Michael, and he says, I have the SSL2. When I lightly touch the buttons, I get a occasional static being picked up in my recordings when I'm not even touching anything. Any suggestions what that might be?
If you've got it from Sweetwater, send it back because they'll swap it out. In the old days, we would take off the knob, spray it. Don't open it up, you could just exercise the knobs a little bit, back and forth, and see if, and then don't touch it gently.
Sean says, dang it, anybody want a gently used NT1 fourth generation? I want to upgrade to the fifth now. So there you go. If you're looking for an affordable NT1 fourth generation, not ready to go straight to the fifth, reach out to Sean. I'm sure he'll be happy to flip that over to you on eBay or wherever the kids are selling cool equipment these days, and he can go out and buy his new fifth gen.
Facebook Marketplace, VO Gear.
There you go.
Yep.
Okay, let's see. Here's one from Greg. How much ceiling treatment should you have, i.e. one panel directly above or as many needed to fill your space overhead, and how high above the source should they be mounted?
The lower it can be, the sooner it's going to stop. You don't want it going further and going somewhere else. It'll disperse if the treatment is up too high, and it might have to be an experiment. You probably need more than just a 2x4 over your head, because you're talking out. You're talking forward of where the treatment might be. So maybe one over your head and one beyond that to stop whatever else might be hitting the ceiling.
Should we be looking for anything in particular? Like, I know I have, they're actually called Prime Acoustic cloud panels that I bought. So they're actually acoustic panels, and I've got two of them that are hanging above, and they cover, I would say, 90% of the ceiling area in my booth. And I've got them hanging down maybe 3 inches or something from the ceiling. I didn't want them down too low, but is it just a matter of getting some Oralex and sticking it up there, or should we be looking for an actual panel? Does it really matter?
I like the cloud idea. There's a company called Clear Sonic that makes Sorber panels, clearsonic.com. They have fold up panels that you could put behind you when I was talking about tightening up the space, making it smaller, like in Lori Schreiber's booth. The booth was too big. I put a panel behind her and it was great. And Gene Lupo, I think he's got 2 or 4 of those silver panels hanging suspended from his ceiling. So if you go to Vocal Booth to Go or the Foam Factory, there's a couple of places that sell, or just Google acoustic panels. And I think Tim Tippett's makes panels, I believe. Maybe George does. George, when he was at VO Atlanta, he had some squares of I think they were just samples of what he would build bigger. So reach out to George the Tech.
Yep.
Tim Tippett's.
Speaking of George the Tech, George mentioned that taking advantage of the NT1 5th generation 32-bit USB recording wasn't totally straightforward, at least on a Mac. There were some computer side bits that had to be twiddled. So something to keep in mind if you're upgrading and wanting to use USB. I'm surprised because Mac, usually it's more straightforward. Usually it's the Windows machines that you got to install drivers and all this junk. Macs just plug and play, and the whole world Windows machines, PCs shouldn't even exist. It should all just be Mac.
Put on your boxing gloves,
I'll fight you. All right, here's one from Stetson. I thought I read somewhere that a proper recording room should not be square or rectangular. And now everybody knows why Mark Scott has an angled wall in his booth that he consulted Uncle Roy on before he built.
Because Mark Scott is smart. Hey, is that the Stetson that I met at VO Atlanta? How many people do you know named Stetson? So that's got to be him.
It's got to be. There you go.
Guy, he says he's coming to the barbecue. Yeah, if you're having one built, first of all, if you're having one built, then reach out to George the Tech because he designs and builds booths. Prefab booth, I like the Bear Cave silent booths, but I don't know if they make one that's parallelogram or a diamond. But there are diamond shape and pentagon shape booths that, they would have, because if the walls aren't parallel, the sound doesn't bounce back and forth.
Okay.
Mark's a good listener.
Flip says, would some 4-inch thick foam panels, mine are from Sound Assured, be sufficient overhead? I would think that would be. That's thicker than what I've got in my overhead panels.
I'm sure. Send me a sample.
That's it. This is the universal advice. Hang up the panels, do whatever you think you were going to do, then send the sample, and then Uncle Roy will be like, yep, that's good. Or he'll be like, nope, that didn't work. Take that down.
That's how we did it.
That's how we do it. Right on. All right. So again, if you've got a question that you would like to ask, feel free to type your question into the comments, and I'm certainly keeping my eye out to try and answer as many questions as possible. Matthew asks possibly the most important question of them all. Uncle Roy, what is the best bagel? Where do we have to go to get it? We have to come to your house to do a new demo, and then you'll take us in the Plymouth.
Come here October 1st for the 18th annual VOBBQ, but that's day 2 is the bagel brunch. Any bagels in New York or New Jersey, I'm sure, are fine because we have the right water, the right minerals in the water. It's a 2-step process. It's not like going to Dunkin' Donuts and getting a bagel, because that's not a bagel. You have to boil it and bake it.
So you're telling me that my Tim Hortons bagels aren't legit?
Well, but let me add this. And Teresa Ho brings the Montreal bagels, and they don't suck. Okay. Montreal bagels they're pretty good. But when the New York or East Coast people, I said, all right, here's the Montreal bagel, here's the Jersey bagel. You decide. Hands down, it was the Jersey bagel, as you could. So yeah, I don't know. Come on over to my house. We'll have bagels. And WoHop.
Okay, interesting question. We're talking about Bear Cave doesn't currently have unparalleled walls. So, I mean, a lot of these, the Studio Bricks, the Whisper Room, the Bear Cave, all of them, they are basically built as squares or rectangles. But, I mean, I've recorded in your Whisper Room, and when I recorded in it, I wanted to buy it. It sounded amazing. So I guess a lot of that has to do with the treatment, right?
The treatment. Yeah, I have a 4x4 single wall whisper room, which hopefully I'll be able to sell so I can make room for a bear cave booth. They're going to drive it down for the barbecue. We'll see.
Well, so there you go. So Sean's selling a microphone. Roy's selling a whisper room. If you guys
Yeah.
need anything, type it in the comments. I'll take Sean's. We'll start auctioning it off here. I'll take Sean's microphone. I'll take Roy's whisper room. When I recorded in your whisper room, I mean, it sounded amazing. I could not believe how good that sounded. But yeah,
and that was before I had my 87. That was on a AKG 414.
Yeah.
Vintage. So okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's a good question. This one comes from Jane. It says, are custom Adobe Audition settings needed for different mics? Uncle Roy set me up a couple of weeks ago on my NT1, but I also have a Synco mic D2, considering the 5th generation now. See, everybody's going out and buying the 5th generation NT1 now. So is that something, do you need different settings for different microphones?
Yeah, I would say send me 2 raw samples from either microphone, and then what'll probably change more so than anything would be the EQ. How much bass and treble and bass roll off, depending on your space and microphone and all that. So I've made, we have the Magic 7 button. Okay, we could make, and we have Shift 7, but we could make a different button to run the stack that has a different EQ setting, has a different de-esser setting. If one microphone is more sibilant than the other one wouldn't need so much de-essing. So yeah, we can make numerous stacks.
Okay, Derek wants to buy the whisper room, so we'll get the bidding started here momentarily. What are the dimensions of Uncle Roy's whisper room? You said it's a 4x4?
4x4, yeah. I think that's the external. It's 4x4. Currently has Oralex all around, and then has a product called Studio Suit that Dan Leonard used to sell, which is kind of like stuffed packing blankets.
And for further endorsement for the whisper room at Uncle Roy's, Mark Scott's award-nominated commercial demo was recorded in that whisper room. So obviously it's got to be a good space, right? So
okay, nomination is a win for me. I don't care.
Yep, we'll take it. So there you go. So we'll get the bidding started momentarily on the whisper room.
Your space must be okay too, because you got nominated for the other demo
That's right. The studio, the booth that I built after your consultation, I recorded my my documentary narration demo in there, and it was nominated too. So it's almost like you know what you're talking about when it comes to the studio stuff.
I know. I could probably make cash doing this.
Yeah, you should look into that. There might be a business in there for you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Again, VOB. Oh, here's a question from Matthew Kelly. The barbecue, October 1st and
2nd? No, that would be a Sunday and Monday. It's September 30th and October 1st.
September 30th and October 1st for the barbecue. If you are wanting to come to the barbecue.
Rumor has it that someone is throwing their smoker in their truck and driving it down here to do brisket.
I'm feeling public pressure right now. I'm feeling public pressure. I want to put this up too, by the way, guys. If you're not connected with Uncle Roy yet, there's Facebook, Instagram. The website is antlandproductions.com. Uncle Roy spends more time on Facebook than any human known to man, but he is there for, I think, basically, it's not 24/7. What is it?
25/8.
25/8. He is there for 25/8 tech support on Facebook Messenger. You will always be able to get a hold of him. So there's some different ways that you can get a hold of Uncle Roy again.
I was in the airport on the way home, and my text message went off saying, "Hey, my Source Connect needs mapping." Yeah.
Operators are always standing by.
Yes, and I have a session at 9 a.m. and this was 10 o'clock at night. What are you waiting for? So I hooked them up with Mike Mechanical, and everybody was happy.
Derek says he wants to know if you ship to Montana. Derek, the way it works is you come to New Jersey. He'll take you to WoHop. You can get some Chinese, and then you can just drive back with the whisper room, and it'll be fine, and it'll be all part of the adventure. Oh, that was the wrong comment. The comments are popping up so fast. I went to put one on the screen, and the comments moved before I had a chance to do it. The one I was going to put up, Christopher says, are you both going to be attending WoVOCon, which is coming up here in May? I will not be at WoVOCon this time
I'll be
around.
there. I'll have my bagels.
Although, I mean, I would love to go to Florida. It would be nice to go hang out in Florida. But I just got back from VO Atlanta. I know that I'm going to be doing. I'm supposed to be doing One Voice. I'm looking forward to that. One Voice in Texas. Going to go get some barbecue.
That's in August, and then
Yeah.
Mavo in November.
Then Mavo. I'm going to be doing Mavo in. I guess that's in November, right? So
Yep. November 10th.
right on.
I would go. Oh, I am going. Never mind.
There you go. So again, if you've got a question for Uncle Roy, guys, we got a few minutes left here. Don't be shy. Feel free to type your question into the comments. Anything, home studio, tech, equipment, editing.
If you need a recipe how to fry matzah, you know.
If you need there you go. We're turning it into a cooking show as well. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to type those into the comments. Thank you guys for hanging out today and for all the questions that you've asked. It's been a good show so far. Again, one more reminder, Christi Bowen coming up next Friday. And with Christi, we are going to be talking e-learning. So that's next Friday, April 14th, 1 o'clock Eastern time. That's going to be a good one. And then Cliff is going to be on the show April 21st. If you have questions about automotive, Cliff is going to be here answering all of those questions. That's going to be a really good live broadcast as well. Looking forward to finally getting Cliff onto the show. So mark these dates on your calendar. Please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can get notified anytime that I'm going live, anytime one of these things is happening. And don't forget, Voiceover Marketing Playbook coming out April 11th. I have been working so hard. I figure by the time I'm done, I'll have almost 200 hours into recreating Playbook. So it's going to be Playbook 3.0. Fully redone, fully relaunched course, moving it to a fully new platform, which is a much better, much more user-friendly platform. Early feedback on that has been very positive. So if you need help with the marketing side of voiceover, this is the course that is going to help you. So that is going to be coming out on April 11th at voiceovermarketingplaybook.com or at markscottcoaching.com. So make sure that you are checking that out as well. All right. Anybody else got any other questions? Anything that you would like to add? What question didn't we ask that we should be aware of, Uncle Roy? Is there a piece of advice we need?
What's the best microphone for starting?
What is the best microphone for starting? I think the NT1 5th generation at 249 is actually, I mean, geez, you can't hardly beat that.
Even though I haven't heard it yet, that's what I'm advertising. But I'll come back and let you know, or I'll put it on Facebook. I'll let you know what I think of the actual quality, and I'll try it XLR. I'll try it USB, and we'll check that out.
So this is actually interesting. I got to show you this now. Mind you, this is Amazon, but so there's the 5th generation, and it's at $249 on Amazon. But if you go to the 4th generation, it's actually at $269.
Yeah, and that's without the USB and without the clipping.
Now I'm curious. NT1 4th generation. Does Sweetwater even have it? Let's just take a look and see.
I mean, they just say NT1, and we assume it's 4th generation.
5th gen.
Right, that's the new kid on the block.
Those are okay. So there's an NT1, which I'm gonna guess then that would be the 4th gen. So it is actually $20 more than what this new 5th generation microphone is without some of the same functionality. So I feel like I should be. This should turn into a paid endorsement for the NT1 at this point right now. I mean, we're saying lots of nice things about it.
Let's send the podcast in, and maybe we can get a free one or something.
Since we're talking microphones, Flip says, any thoughts on the AT2020?
Yes, sell it.
Sell it and buy an NT1.
Yeah. No, it's 2020. Look, it's the cheapest mic. There's usually a high noise floor. It's not the best quality. Your S's are going to be loud. If what I just said is not true with your recording, if it sounds good, send me a sample. If it sounds good, I'll tell you. I'm not here to sell microphones, or I'm not here to sell anything. I'm here to help you. If it's not broken, don't fix it. You want to use your 2020, and I know some of these voiceover schools do a package of whether it's the 2020 and you know, and a Scarlet, or a NT1A and a Scarlet, I'll talk to them and tell them to knock it off.
We need to clarify. I told George that you said PC is okay and do not need to change to Mac. Why do you feel that way? So when Roy and I are going back and forth at each other, Roy is a PC guy. I'm a Mac guy. I have not used a PC since Windows XP. So I don't know when that was, but it was a long time ago. And so it's literally just two guys smack talking each other. I happen to be an Apple shareholder as well, so naturally I have to sing the praises of Apple, and I think everybody should use Apple, and there should be no PCs. But
some people know that I have a MacBook Pro sitting right over here, running Big Sur, because I have to play with Twisted Wave.
Right.
So it's not. I mean, I personally am just as comfortable on a Mac as a PC.
Yep.
It's just fun to say.
It's just fun to poke at each other.
You Mac people, but I don't like peer pressure saying you. It's a
you
whole
will fail at voiceover if you don't have a Mac.
Exactly.
You will never make a dime in this business if you don't switch to Mac this afternoon.
If you put that you have a PC on your website, nobody's going to take you serious.
Yeah, nobody's going to hire you.
You need a Neumann 103, which is not my favorite mic.
So yes, we jest. That's a lot of what is going on there. A question from Charles that popped up. When is the best time to use a built-in 10 dB pad on a microphone?
When you're screaming.
When you're screaming. Okay, so again, characters, animation, things like that, probably.
You don't want to overload your mic preamp or your interface. So if you're going to scream, and rather than going over and turning the gain down, yeah, you could pop the 10 dB pad in there, scream your head off, and it shouldn't clip.
Or you could buy the 5th generation NT1 and then with the 32-bit processing.
Right, exactly. Then you don't need the pad anymore.
Okay, we got one final question for Free Advice Friday, and this is a very important question. I hope that we can get you to do this without, hurting yourself, throwing out your back. What socks do you have on today, Uncle Roy?
In honor of we at physical therapy, we have Crab Sock Wednesday, but we also have Fun Sock Friday. So in honor of Easter, I guess. These are, they're tie-dye.
There's orange on them. I thought you were doing that for me.
Yeah, that too. Well, how come this shirt isn't orange then? So tie-dye socks is the answer, but how come this isn't orange? Does it come in orange?
I don't know. I'll make sure that there's an orange version.
What a link to your swag in the show there.
Okay, one more. This is a good question, actually. I thought that was going to be the last one, but let's do this. One more time about sending samples. When we send our samples, do you want to know about equipment? Do you care about that, or is it just the audio?
No, you're right. Yeah, send me the sample, 10 seconds of room tone, followed by a 30-second read, all in one WAV file. Yes, and then tell me PC or Mac, DAW or software, Adobe Audition, Twisted Wave, whatever, Reaper. Don't tell me about your Reaper. What microphone, what interface, and are you doing audiobooks? Because that makes a difference.
Okay, good to know. So there's the instructions, and here are all the different ways that you can reach out to Uncle Roy. Although I guess I should let me put the we'll bring this up here. Put that in here too. There you go. There's the email address as well. So you can connect with Uncle Roy on Facebook. He is on Instagram. The website is antlandproductions.com. There's the email address, which I will make fun of him for forever, which is antlandprods@aol.com, antlandprods@aol.com. So if you want to send in your studio sample and get an assessment, going back to what we talked about at the very beginning of the show, where this casting director is saying that, if I get 800 auditions, from those 800 auditions, 500 of them might get eliminated, and a lot of those are because of bad audio. If you've never had somebody like Uncle Roy, Dan, George, Tim, Jordan Reynolds, all these different guys, if you've never had somebody like that listen to your audio, it's worth getting somebody like that to listen to your audio to make sure that it is on point, that it is what it needs to be. So you can reach out to Uncle Roy, get that studio assessment. Thank you so much for hanging out and for answering all of our questions and for wearing bunny ears, making me feel bad because I don't have mine. I'll go find them now. I'm sure they're around somewhere, but
Make sure Boo gets a good basket. That's all I care about.
I will make sure that the Boo gets a
All the
good
girls.
basket.
That's 4 baskets you have to buy. Mary Ellen needs a basket.
And again, guys, next Friday, Free Advice Friday with Christi Bowen. We're going to be talking all about e-learning. So that's next Friday, April 14th at 1 o'clock Eastern. Again, subscribe to the channel so you can get notified. And the week after that, Cliff Zellman is going to be joining me on Free Advice Friday. So that's April 21st, again, 1 o'clock Eastern. And we're going to be talking all things automotive. So make sure that you are subscribing so you're going to get notified about those and mark them in your calendars now. All right, Uncle Roy. Well, thank you very much. You probably have 6 more Adobe Audition 2-hour life-changing sessions to do this afternoon, even though it's a holiday. So I will let you go and get back to that.
Yeah, I got to eat my matzah.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for watching. As always, I appreciate it. The replay will be available here momentarily. I'll go back through and add chapter markers to link you straight to some of the different questions that were asked and answered as well. Whatever you decide to do this weekend, of course, enjoy your Easter. Have fun, stay safe, and as always, go find some leads.